be a part of it.
Nigeria, uplifting the people and uniting the nation.
Well, it's a beautiful afternoon and you're welcome to the network service of Radio Nigeria. Whatever you're up to at this moment, wherever you are, please get comfortable because you're about to be a part of a very important conversation that will definitely benefit not just you, but Nigeria at large. Now, you may have heard countless times that there is so much potential in Nigeria, in its people, the economy, and the rest. Well, it is true. And guess what? Today, we're showing you not just that potential, but how you can be a part of Nigeria's success story. My name is Kayode Okikelu, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the very first edition of the Bankers Committee Financial Literacy Enlightenment Program. Now, let me break it down for you slowly. This edition is the very first of 5 programs that will be coming your way on this platform every week. And it's put together by the Bankers Committee. Well, the idea is to get you and, of course, our discussants to explore key issues surrounding businesses, entrepreneurship, and the impact of those activities, your activities on the nation's economy. Well, simply put, the Bankers Committee wants to help you make better financial decisions so you or your business can be the best and ultimately contribute to making Nigeria's economy much better for it. Well, we'll be having brilliant resource persons today to discuss and give very in-depth analysis of each topic as the weeks go by, of course, but it even gets better because you can also be a part of the conversation live. And here's how you can be a part of a conversation. Please head over to Instagram right now. The handle you're looking for, by the way, is at Bankers Committee FLPE. So that's Bankers Committee with, of course, double M, double T, double E, and FLPE. That's the handle you're looking for on Instagram. So drop your questions, your comments, your observations, ideas, whatever. Drop it right there, and we'll get to, take them up as the program, commences. You can also use a platform on WhatsApp. That's right, on 0706 449 8228. I'll take that again. The number you can send your questions, comments, contributions, whatever idea you have regarding this conversation, the number you can send it to is 0706 449 8229. Please, no calls, just text messages. But that's not all. You can also follow this on the internet, right? At www.smegrowth.ng. So if you have someone outside Nigeria, if you don't have access to radio just right now, or you're losing touch, just go online, smegrowth.ng. You can get to listen live. So how about we drive just right into the conversation today? And today's episode has a very interesting topic for you. We'll be discussing diaspora remittances and its impact on the nation's economy. That's right, diaspora remittances. You've probably heard that before, but let me bring this home. The truth is, almost everyone has at least a family member or a friend outside Nigeria. So in some way, you may have been a part of this without you knowing, and we're going to be walking you through just how you can make the most of this diaspora remittances. So this is really important, but that's just to give you more context. In 2018 alone, just 2 years ago, statistics available show that migrant remittances to Nigeria was $25 billion. $25 billion. Now, that's 6.1% of the nation's gross domestic product, the GDP. Now, this might also interest you. The 2018 figure was actually 83% of the federal government's budget for that year. So essentially, that amount could have almost sorted our budget for the year 2018. Also, it was 11 times FDI flows in that same period. And I could go on and on just to tell you how important this conversation is. So clearly, These diaspora remittances can have a strong impact on development at all levels, especially as it has a multiplier effect on consumption, your consumption, investment, and economic growth. And the interesting part of this is the federal government saw this huge gold mine and established the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, that's NICOM, in July 2017. And the plan was to engage and utilize the human capital and material resource for Nigeria's development. And of course, in 2019, the federal government went a step further by recognizing July the 25th as National Diaspora Day. There is so much to this conversation on diaspora remittances. So let me introduce our discussants on today's program. They are itching to walk you through how you can maximize this for yourself and for the nation at large. We're joined by Mr. Mekai Richard Audu, who's a representative of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Mr. Mekai, it's great to have you on the program.
Nice to be here, Kadi.
Thank you. We also have Mr. Desmond Ohama, who's a Group Head, Remittances and Diaspora Banking at Fidelity Bank. Mr. Ohama, great to have you.
Thank you for having me here.
And Mr. Stephen Abba is a representative of MD and CEO ITEX Integrated Services Limited. Mr. Abba, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
So, gentlemen, it is my pleasure to have you in this studio. Incidentally, July the 25th was National Diaspora Day, and we're here today talking about the impact of remittances from the diaspora to Nigeria's economy. So let's get right into this. Clearly, this is a big issue. $25 billion in 2018 is huge. But I'd like us to simplify this for our listener. This term diaspora remittance might sound huge to some people. So, Mr. Mekai, if you could just break it down for us. What are diaspora remittances? What qualifies as diaspora remittance?
Thank you, Kadi. Yes, you rightly introduced the program today. Diaspora remittances, simply put, they're all funds transferred by family and friends to the country. You mentioned we have family and friends overseas. Anytime they send funds in cash, funds in items, it's reported as diaspora remittance.
So essentially, this is private funds.
Private funds, they're private savings. We have so many migrants, Nigerians, all around the world. So part of their savings is sent back home. It's referred to as diaspora remittance.
Oh, brilliant. Now, so this is a field you operate in very well. If you could just broaden this for us. I mean, you've seen examples. What specifics also can we have as diaspora remittances?
Okay, just to add to that, they are basically private savings of migrant workers working abroad and then being remitted to their loved ones back home. It includes cash and non-cash items. So it is not government payment, it's not foreign aid, it's essentially private savings of hardworking Nigerians living in all parts of the world, remitting money back home.
So this is essentially money in the hands of citizens.
Money in the hands of citizens.
Okay, let me get Mr. Abba to chip in on this one as well. You work at a different level of the market. What's your view of this flow of diaspora remittance?
Okay, thank you very much, Kayode, for that question. As you rightly said, remittances have been greatly impactful on the economy. So we look at monies that come from our families, our friends, business partners and all that from diaspora. So these funds will basically help the locals, they could either be fund cash or non-cash for investment, basically to enable them earn a living. In the Nigerian parlance, I have somebody in the abroad, they want to get money. So all those incomes that come, it's a huge segment that if it's properly enhanced, it could lead to great economic growth. It has a huge potential that beyond the declarations of the days of diaspora and all that, we need to put a whole lot together to get the best out of that segment. We have a whole lot of Nigerians, intellectuals across different parts of the world.
Right.
So we need to do a whole lot more to get the best out of that.
Interestingly, that's what we'll be discussing today. So, Mr. Mekai, prior to this point, let me say 5-10 years ago, diaspora remittances wasn't a buzz term as it is right now. So, if you could just tell us why the sudden interest in diaspora remittance. I talked about the federal government's move with NICOM and some other initiatives. Why the sudden interest?
All around the world, remittances have been discovered to be very more stable, they're more reliable form of foreign earnings. So So if whatever country like Nigeria now, we get remittances into the country, we're not brought down by paying interest, we're not brought down by pulling out the funds from the country. They come into the country and they stay. And once they stay, you invest. Once you invest or you spend, you build up the economy. I bring in $100, I have to change it to Naira. The $100 remains in Nigeria. Once that happens, it's good for the economy.
And you know, the interesting part is the fact that, you know, this money is coming, but the challenge will be around getting at least a figure to just how many Nigerians we have in the diaspora. Is that something you want to weigh in on?
Well, several studies have indicated that we have 17 million Nigerians in diaspora. Those are studies, but this has not been confirmed. But I guess with the Nigeria, the Commission for Diaspora, we'll have better figures.
Because I'm trying to crunch it in my head. If 17 million, multiply that by an average of how much?
$200, that's the average send.
Wow, that's huge. I mean, Mr. Alma, you see this monies coming in, and I'd like you to, as it were, just tell us how, you know, these monies have impacted the nation's economy, as it were. What direct impact do diaspora remittances have on the nation's economy?
Oh, the impact, I will tell you, is huge. If you look at the declining revenues from oil receipts declined from $4.85 billion in 2019 to $2.62 billion in 2020. And then if you put that side by side with diaspora remittances, the volume of $17 billion is huge. That's like 6 times that value. So the country is looking for where to complement foreign exchange inflows from. And diaspora remittances offers a reliable option. The impact is huge on both macro and microeconomy. So I just described the impact on macroeconomy. So drying forest inflows is one of the reasons why we're having this increased focus. But if you look at households, the boost in economic activities, in fact, for some people, it's like a seed capital. So studies shows that 70% of the remittances are used for family upkeep, while 30% is used for investment. So if you look at that volume, meeting basic needs of people being able to fund education, fund investment, and even foster businesses, that adds to economic growth and development. So if you look at 30% on investment, it has multiplier effect on the economy. I know some cities like Benin are thriving on diaspora remittances. So it's a huge plus to our economy. And if you look at cases in some other poorer countries like Haiti, it's about 37% of their GDP. South Sudan, 34% of their GDP. So when you look at it, you know that is huge. And some of those countries cannot survive without diaspora remittances. So I will tell you that's why you have this increased focus.
It's interesting.
The impact.
Right, it's interesting you mentioned those countries. I mean, looking at the figures, at least the estimates you hear Nigeria has almost 20 million, 17 million, 15 million. And you have some other countries, like you mentioned, who do not have as much people in the diaspora, and they're remitting way more than we're getting in Nigeria. So, Mr. Mekai, there's a huge potential here, clearly. You just did a quick math right there, and I'm trying to crunch the figures. Would you say we have been able to adequately exploit the opportunities, the possibilities in diaspora remittances?
Yes. As I mentioned earlier, studies have shown that Nigeria is the 17th out of 214 countries in global remittances. And it's estimated that in 2019, the total inflows into Nigeria amounted to 23.8 billion. Why don't we see this, you will ask? Why don't we see the impact of these funds into Nigeria? What happens is that in Nigeria, a lot of illegal inflows are sent into the country. Why? Because of disparity in rates. There are disparity in rates from what it was prior to November last year. Recipients got Naira, and then the bank thought it was better for everybody to collect the currency and send.
That's the Central Bank of Nigeria.
The Central Bank of Nigeria decided that, okay, it's better for everybody to receive the currency and send. That way, there wouldn't be any illegal sends, and then the funds will come into the country, and then you have the liberty to do whatever you do with your funds.
Right. It's interesting because you started mentioning some of the policies, some of the ideas that the CBN is coming up with to ensure that we latch onto this as much as we can. But I'd like to take Mr. Ohama's view on how well we've been able to exploit the remittances from the diaspora. I mean, there are a lot of challenges, right?
Yeah, there are a lot of challenges. Just like Richard said, when you look at the numbers, Mexico with 14 million people is remitting $43 billion. Philippines with 11 million people is remitting $35 billion. Egypt with 9.5 million people, migrants living all over the world, is remitting $30 billion.
Mr. Ohama.
So in the same year,
if I could pause you, I love what you're building up. But we'll take a minute break. And when we return, you continue from that. I like the fact that you've teased some of those figures, but just pause that thought, if you will, for a moment. Let's take a break, and we'll be back. Stay with us.
Radio Nigeria, uplifting the people and uniting the nation.
Are you an SME or business manager trying to find your feet post-COVID? Listen up. The Bankers Committee, in keeping up with its mandate for financial inclusion, presents a 5-week financial literacy radio program to equip you with the skills to thrive in the post-COVID economy. The radio series will focus on SMEs in agriculture, trade and commerce, technology, diaspora remittance, manufacturing and the export industry, and will feature experts from deposit money banks, development agencies and successful entrepreneurs who will provide capacity building support for SME growth post-COVID. Weekly topics to be discussed include diaspora remittances and its impact on the Nigerian economy, sustainable economic growth through value addition and exportation, growing the economy through value chain, growth strategy for business post-COVID, proactive strategies for business in recovery. Join the conversation by tuning in every week on Thursday by 4:30 to 5 p.m. on the network service of Radio Nigeria. Bankers Committee, enhancing your business growth.
Radio Nigeria, uplifting the people and uniting the nation.
So that's right, you're tuned in to the Bankers Committee Financial Literacy Enlightenment Program, where we walk you through how to make better financial decisions. And today we're discussing diaspora remittances. Whether you like it or not, an average Nigerian is involved in diaspora remittance. Either you're on the receiving end or the sending end. So this is a very, very important conversation which you want to be a part of. And speaking of being a part of this, if you want to send in questions, comments, observations, whatever the case may be, you can send them via WhatsApp. That's right. So the number to send those questions or comments to is 0706 449 8228. I'll take that again. 0706 449 8228. It's on WhatsApp, so please no calls, just messages. You can also join the conversation on Instagram. That's right, we're on Instagram at Bankers Committee FLPE. So that's Bankers Committee with a double M, double T, double E, and FLPE. You can also join us online at www.smegrowth.ng. That's SMEGROWTH.ng. I still have my brilliant discussants on the program, Mr. Mekai Richard Audu, who's a representative of the central bank, to give us, an overview, a wide view of the policies, the direction, and just, give you some rest as to the direction of how things are going. We also have Mr. Desmond Ohama, who's a group head remittances and diaspora banking at Fidelity Bank. We have a major player in the sector, as well as Mr. Stephen Abba, a representative of the MD/CEO ITEX Integrated Services Limited. Mr. Ohama, just before we went on that break, you were building up, you were giving figures of other countries and how we can better exploit this potential. Please go ahead.
Okay, so like I was saying, remittances follow migration pattern. Simply put, the number of people you have abroad determines the volumes will be expected. So, but when you look at other countries and top 5, and then compare it with Nigeria, there's something not adding up. So like I was saying, Mexico with 14 million people in the diaspora is remitting $43 billion. Philippines with 35 billion people, with 11 million people in the diaspora is remitting $35 billion. Egypt, the first in Africa with 9.5 million migrants, is remitting 30 billion. In the same year, 2020, Nigeria with 17 to 20 million people, official figures, is remitting $17 billion. It clearly shows that there's something not adding up. So, and these are, people who have strong ties to their home country. They are highly skilled. Nigerians are one of the most respected in US, Canada, UK,
You can say
and
that.
any part of the world you can think about. So I think the informal channels are still being used. And part of this is to encourage people to sensitize everyone to use the formal channels. You stand to gain more.
I mean, which is why we're having this conversation. Mr. Mekai, I saw you wanted to chip into that quickly.
Yes, to support what Desmond mentioned, Nigerians, in addition what he said, Nigerians have the most professionals in diaspora. So it's expected that the inflows by Nigerians should be the highest. Unfortunately, it's not so. A lot of Nigerians migrate into countries not legally. A point in case is a couple of years back in the United States, the president directed that all remittances have to be done in person. So remittances from that corridor had to be done in person, means you have to work into the agent center and then initiate your remittance. With that, a lot of
beyond that, we should be looking at a situation whereby we will make diaspora remittance like a deliberate economic policy, whereby we encourage economic migration. As my colleague from CBN said, we have a whole lot of guys with great intellectuals, across the world. So once we do that, so working with NICOM, we'll be looking at a situation whereby we establish, a kind of diaspora remittance company exclusively, for remittances of funds at zero cost, just to encourage more Nigerians to send back funds, home. And then also there's a key thing we also need to look at when we are trying to look at how to better optimize remittances from diaspora, is the fact that we need to look at the risk management aspect, the database. Today, all the figures we get to read from different sources are just statistics on the internet. We cannot actually ascertain the exact number of Nigerians outside the shores of this country. So if we're able to put that unified database in place, we should be able to put a kind of those economic policies on migration I said earlier, and then we can actually ascertain how much each individual gets to bring back home and how they put them into use. So beyond sending back, there are a whole lot of things, even the central bank has done. They've licensed IMTOs today, so we have a whole lot of IMTOs that do this just with a click on your phone, and you're able to send money. And then for just maybe finally for payment, for other payment companies like us, at iTex, we've delivered or churned out bespoke and innovative products that just using your mobile app, you're able to send money from wherever you are in the country down to Nigeria and all that.
Brilliant. So Mr. Mekai, you're a regulator. There have been different policies put forward by the CBN just to ease the process of diaspora remittances. So if you could just walk our listener through this such that they can understand what's on ground at this moment.
Okay, let me start with the most recent policy. The most recent policy on diaspora remittances is an incentive for the send. Analysis on studies that were conducted showed that the cost of commission to send funds into Nigeria was the highest among the nations that were conducted. So the central bank thought of it to, why would we incentivize these people? Let's try and get the cost of send declined. And that's why we introduced for the Naira for dollar policy. Naira for dollar is for every dollar you send into Nigeria, you're given 5 Naira. And why are you given 5 Naira? Let's take an example. I send $100 from the United States. $100 wouldn't get to me, the beneficiary, because of the commission of, let's say, $12. So instead of $100 coming to Nigeria, $88 comes to Nigeria. So we now gave an incentive of 5 Naira to increase the 88 by 5. That's the equivalent in Naira by 5. So every beneficiary had a 5 Naira to
on every dollar.
On every dollar that was sent into Nigeria.
Oh, brilliant! So, as it were, you make money for receiving money.
For receiving money, you make money. So it will give more people the drive to send money.
Interesting.
We have other policies by the recipients will receive the currency of send. Once you receive the currency on send, we now have taken all the illegal operators. The illegal operators were dominated our market. Instead of sending the money to Nigeria, they took advantage of it and held back the money and paid people in Nigeria Naira. And the CBN thought better of it to just pay the recipients. Everybody sending money into Nigeria should be in the foreign currency. So I collect my foreign currency. No incentive for anybody to act illegally again.
Just as we wind down, we have just 2 minutes or thereabouts to wrap up this conversation. But first, Mr. Mekai, I'll come to what the DMBs are doing specifically to ease this process. But, recently the CBN came up with that recent policy that's got everyone talking regarding the Bureau de Change operators and Forex and the rest. Just how does this come into play with diaspora remittances? Does it affect it? Is this an opportunity to even better the process? What exactly?
It will be interesting to note that the inflows that we had from diaspora remittances were what we used to fund the BDC subsector. So the inflows for funding the BDC subsector came from diaspora remittances, not from our reserves. And if they did, were they used wisely? Were they used for the purpose they were? No, they weren't. And that is why the CBN said, okay, do you know what? Let's have the banks. We can regulate the banks better. That's why it's going there now.
Interesting. So, Mr. Ahmed, on final note, DMBs, that's your field. How are you making this process easier for Nigerians to remit to the country?
So the banks are doing quite a lot. You recall in March, early this year, we had a diaspora webinar organized by our MD/CEO, Mrs. Nneka Onyalibe. It was widely attended. We had over 10,000 participants. We mobilized the diaspora to think home. You were the anchor for that virtual event. So we are also facilitating partnerships with international money transfer operators in all parts of the world just to increase the volumes coming into the country. There are 2 payment options, cash pickup service and then transfer to accounts. So we've done innovation around transfer to accounts. In 2 minutes, you can actually receive dollar from New York,
it's interesting
from Australia,
2 minutes,
from any part of the world.
Brilliant. We have just a few seconds to wrap up. Gentlemen, I'd like to thank you so much. By the way, we got questions. So what we'll do is we'll send you those questions. So we'll respond to our listener who has sent those questions in such that they can have responses to their questions. But gentlemen, Mr. Mekai from the CBN, thank you so much. Mr. Ohama from Fidelity Bank, I'd like to appreciate you, as well as Mr. Abba. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on this one.
Thank you so much.
Well, you've been listening to the Bankers Committee Financial Literacy and Public Enlightenment Campaign Program on the network service of Radio Nigeria. On behalf of the crew, Uche Enabeli, the studio manager, Valentine Analo, the engineer, and Oyi Ondoembe, who's a producer, we'd like to thank you so much for sharing your time with us, but we'll be back next week. Don't forget the conversation continues on the website, that's smegrowth.ng, and on our Instagram handle. Don't forget to send in your questions as well. Till next time, I am Kayode Okikilu. Take care.